Hello everyone, this is Archana, and this is my closing remark to the 21-day challenge that we all went through this month. And I want to thank all of you for being so wonderful and completing this journey together with me. I have noted down some points in which I wanted to discuss. First of all, like a lot of people face challenges in finding time and to establish a routine initially. So it's so difficult to find even 20 minutes for ourselves and establishing that routine on a consistent basis. And this is a genuine and a common problem because our lives are really tied up with other duties we have to do. So, but we always have to understand one thing, that that how our mind functions. So our mind has three layers of functioning, and only if these three layers are in particular alignment or harmoniously tied up, actions will not happen, or even if it happens, it won't sustain for a long time. And the best example is this New Year resolutions, and the New Year is coming. So, like gym membership, people start with a great enthusiasm and strong willpower, but it's not sustained, and that is because the three layers of mind are not in harmony with each other. So, what are the three layers of the mind? This is taken from a book called Zen Yoga by P.J. Saher. He was a writer based out of Europe and has written a lot of books on yoga, mostly in German, but this one is in English. And it's very nice, and it's inspired by other two books called Patanjali Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita. It's just inspired, not a direct translation. And it's an interesting book to start reading about yoga. So our mind has the first center, which is the highest most center as evolved human beings, is called the intelligence center or the I center. And a very big faculty of intelligence is discrimination, which is also called Vivek in Hindi. That means we are not like animals, but rather we are evolved more than animals, and we have something called ability to discriminate. Like a horse can only eat a grass, but we have a choice what to eat. The second layer of our mind is called emotional layer, or E center. E center is how we feel. So depending on how we feel, good or bad, we'll do that thing, otherwise we won't do that thing. The third layer of the mind, which is the lowest center, which is supposed to be guided by intellect and emotion, is called the sensual center, or the S center, which is more like a basic instinct of this body and is more like an animal instincts, and it's based on all the five senses which are taking impulses from outside. So any action, when it's guided by, according to yoga, any action which is guided by intelligence with emotion tied with it in a positive sense, is always successful, otherwise it's not. For example, if we have to go on a vacation and flight is early morning, we will get up because our emotion is positively tied with it, and also we think about what are we going to do when we get there. So all the sensory pleasures and the emotion, good emotions tied with it, then the action happens. So but this doesn't happen all the time. We don't go on vacation all the time. So how to develop this profound interest or intellect in our day-to-day chore? So imagine we have a bucket full of positive emotions. Bucket is empty right now, but we have to fill that bucket with positive emotions to get a particular job done. So you have to find that profound interest in a day-to-day chore right from the moment you get up. And that's an attitude you have to develop. And you develop that habit and attitude only by looking or observing your mind, which happens in the seat of meditation. For example, just getting up, going to work, or even tidying up your bed in the morning. Take pleasure in these things and fill your bucket with that positive emotion on a day-to-day basis, rather than just like, oh my god, Monday, why do I have to get up and go? No. So that way you're just depleting your bucket. There's a leakage of energy. We are a bundle of energy, and more positive energy we feel in day-to-day life and in small chores. So you have to remember that small chores, more we get that intelligence. And intelligence is not something which is like getting good marks in the school. No, intelligence is ability to discriminate that what to do when. So that's what is intelligence according to yoga. So a person in yoga is always doing the right stuff at the right time. So And what is the benefit of it? Benefit of it is like your life will be filled with enthusiasm all the time, no matter what you're doing. And no matter you're at work or at home, you're the same energy. And so is your enthusiasm. Just by thinking that, just because we have to do so much of stuff and you get already tired in your mind without even doing that stuff, you'll never sustain that thing. But if that's an important part of your life, like your job, how will you sustain at your job? So think about that. And benefits are amazing. And gradually you'll learn that you'll start to enjoy your daily life in small things, and then you'll also start becoming more and more stable within your mind. So what's wrong in living life on the emotional or sensory level? Let's talk about emotions, the second level of living. It's a very common sentence these days. People say that, oh, I got hurt because, I'm very emotional, or I'm a sensitive person. And people think that's normal. And that's not normal. Getting hurt by anything outside impulse is that you don't have enough emotional or mental immunity. That's what it is. It's not being emotional, or it's not being sensitive. A sensitive person acts intellectually. Okay, so emotional, that's more of an emotional leakage. It's something like, if my daughter gets sick, I also get the flu from her. That means it's my physical immunity which is weak. I don't say that. And then similarly, if somebody is shouting at me, or my daughter comes and cries to me because of a problem in school, and if I start crying, saying that, oh, I'm getting so emotional because my daughter is going through, that's my mental weakness. I'm not strong mentally. So that's a discrimination you develop that only comes from your intelligence. And more practices you do, more you become emotionally stronger, and you'll see that change within yourself. And as human beings, we are supposed to be evolved. There's a reason why our brain is evolved to the intellectual level and have this ability to discriminate. Because if we just start living on the basic instinct, let's talk about the sensory pleasure or the sensual pleasures right now. So what's wrong in living in that level? According to yoga, it's a very low level of living your life with, because once we start living at the sensory level, all our actions are directed towards gaining that sensory pleasures, whether it's from any relationship, whether it's from work, whether it's from home. No matter what I do, our senses are always looking for that pleasure from outside. And that reflects in not very good relationships, or not getting job done at work, and even getting tired at home. And and our human mind always runs towards getting sensory pleasures, and always getting dependent on others to get that satisfaction to us, because of which all the mental health issues, because of the expectations arises. And people who do damage to the society, they have expectation from the society, all these mass shooters and people who do killings. So I think living on that level, according to yoga, is not very good, and we should always foster our intelligence on that. And by fostering our intelligence, we are actually, if we train our kids in fostering the intelligence, we inspire them, and we develop true leaders of the society, who really do good in the society. So there are few books which I would like to mention, which you can start reading. Always do some reading. So there's one book called 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. It's a very good book to start with, which shows like what happens when you get early, when you get that time to spend on yourself, a little bit more time, and how getting up early in the morning benefits you, and having a schedule right up in the morning. The second book is, I'll also write down these books in the chat box. There was one, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind by Deepak Chopra. That's also very nice, and it actually gives various examples throughout the world where people have lived their life, and how their either longevity or different things in their life has taken place. The third book is also by Deepak Chopra. It's called Super Brain. That's also very interesting. You should read. And the other two books which I'm going to mention are the traditional books. One is called Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It was written by a sage called Patanjali back in India around maybe sometime in BC. And it's a very scientific book. It's written in Sanskrit, but you get English and Hindi versions of it. And This book is a sutra. It's called Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Sutra means formulas. So just like a scientific book, it has definitions of yoga, which is like a state of mind. Then it has scientific methods, and then it has the results. It's a nice book to go through, and Patanjali has mentioned 8 different steps to reach that stage of mind, which is called yoga. So according to Patanjali, yoga is a state of mind in which you don't get those circle of thoughts by any outside impulse. So you had so much control of your mind, or you become the master of your mind, that you think when you need to think rather than from an outside impulse. And meditation is actually the 7th step out of the 8 steps. It's almost at the end. So what we actually did is not even meditation, because we just started practicing some focusing and inculcating some discipline in your body and mind. So that's what we actually did in this 21 days, but that's enough to start with, and that's what it starts with. And Patanjali also goes on describing the factors affecting our mind and how we can modify those factors. It's a nice book. So, and I'll also share the links. There are also YouTube videos on these books, and I'll share the books the links which are really, they're in English, and they really fit the mindset of a modern day thinker and analyzing mind like ours, and the type of education we have done, that we question everything. So, and second book I can't emphasize enough is called Bhagavad Gita. This is the highest book of yoga. This is not a religious book as it was portrayed to us, but it is a manual for life and how to live your life in yoga. And it defines yoga as a state of mind which is stable and balanced, where nothing affects you, and the person rises up to such a higher consciousness that they can probably get anything done, and no problem is big enough for them. And and it also Gita also shatters the myth which is common among people about yoga or spirituality, that you have to go away and sit in some mountain and do meditation. It shatters that myth, because Gita is like based on a battlefield. So why a battlefield? So it's metaphorically or representing our life. So people who cannot manage their mind, life becomes a battlefield for them. So right from in the morning, getting up, hitting the snooze button on the alarm, and going through everyday chore like day to day, and also sleeping at night. People have difficulty sleeping at night, becomes so the whole life becomes like a battlefield. So that's why probably I feel that Gita is described in a battlefield. It's a question and answer session between a student and a teacher, which is also, I feel, it is a representation of a person of a lower consciousness versus a person of a higher consciousness. And as it's a 700 verse, it's written in a form of poem. It's a 700 verse book, and the dialogue between a student and a teacher. And as you go through the book, each and every question about the mind or the students, no doubt is silly type of thing, he asks each and every doubt, and that actually is also in our mind. So that also gets cleared one by one, and it's such a beautiful book, and it's just like falling in love and knowing your mind again. I would give an example, like how when you know your mind, things become beautiful around you. So for example, there's a heart surgeon or a cardiologist, and he learns about, when he goes to school, they learn about the structure and function of the heart, and so they become the master of heart. So when the time comes to see a patient, so any anomaly or any variation from the normal functioning of the heart, they can very well identify, and then they have a treatment for that because they have that knowledge. Similarly, after reading all these books, going through all these practices, a person who becomes the master of their mind, then they don't have to know just your or my mind, they know everybody's mind. Similarly, a heart surgeon doesn't have to study my heart or your heart, they just know about the heart. Similarly, once we know our mind, we can know anybody's mind, and anomaly from the normal behavior, you can very easily identify. So what happens then? You can actually predict behaviors of people, and you can then modify your own behavior to get along with people or solve the problem. You actually become a problem solver, and the side effect is only beautiful. You make meaningful relationships, and you leave positive impact on people, and you start doing things which are really important and take you in direction of higher consciousness than to indulge in the thing of lower consciousness. This is second big myth. People think that, oh, if I become spiritual or if I read all these books, I'm not going anywhere and I'll stop enjoying life. So I'll tell you about that in my next video. Okay, thank you and namaste.